The 11th, 2021. We will begin with the invocation from Jack Huffman with the Salvation Army, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Dave Hammond. Please rise.
Gracious Heavenly Father, we ask you into our midst, and we ask for guidance on the matters that will be discussed this evening, Father. We pray for protection over each and every family member represented here and for our community, God. We pray for peace in the days that we face, Lord, for all the turmoil and everything that is going on. Give us peace in your midst, Lord, and we pray for protection, Father. Be with our community, God. May it be blessed and may it be richly guided and given into your hands, Father, that our families and friends would be safe, Lord. We thank you for this opportunity, and we pray that you be with us now. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Joe Cronin. Here. Councilmember Joe Brazel.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Elam.
Here.
Councilmember Dave Hammond.
Here.
Councilmember Terry Hollander.
Here.
Councilmember Nancy Schneider. Here. Councilmember John White.
Here.
Okay, first on the agenda tonight is the election of the County Council Chair. I am going to open up for nominations.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Mike Elam.
Okay, Mr. Elam, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. White seconds Mr. Elam. Do I have any other nominations? Okay, nominations are now closed, and we will proceed to vote.
All in favor of?
All in favor of Mr. Elam, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Thank you. Opposed. All right, we will switch spots, and I...
Don't we need to elect the vice chair? We do that next time.
Okay, I think he's getting it.
Drop it down here.
There you go.
Literally.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So we will now take nominations for vice chair. Do I hear any recommendations?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Nancy Snyder for vice chair.
Nancy Schneider, do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any other nominations? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're back on the bench.
I think.
So there you go. Moving on next, we're up to public comments. Anytime we do public comments, we open a subject. We have 3 speakers, 3 for, 3 against on each side of the issue. You have 3 minutes to speak. When you hear the sounder go off, I will thank you for your time of speaking and ask you to have a seat so that everybody has an equal chance to get their time in. So our first speaker tonight will be
Debbie Ferreira.
Hi, Debbie.
Hi. Do I need to?
No, ma'am. You
Okay.
have 3
Sorry.
minutes from the time you start talking, so
Okay.
go ahead.
So thanks for giving us the opportunity to speak today and voice our concerns about the rezoning of the Leffler Farms Trust. So we asked some good questions during the Planning Zoning Commission meetings, which even though the commission themselves, members actually reiterated some of those questions to the Rawls representation, we never really got answers to those things. So our comment, one of them was, why is the property, why do they want to rezone it to R3B if they're only going to use it for single-family houses, because it says that it can be used for multifamily houses. So we always had that fear that if it does get rezoned to R3B, that Rawls could sell it or do whatever, and it could eventually end up with multifamily houses, which isn't in keeping with that area where we live, in Emerald Woods and that surrounding area. One of the other things was that the zoning of the lots, they were talking about letting them have a 10-foot, supposed to be a 10-foot setback, but they were allowed to have a 7-foot. So we were, how do you pick and choose what you want to determine the setback to be? You're going to rezone it one thing, but then you're going to say, but it's okay that you can have the 7-foot setback and not the 10-foot setback. That was required. The other thing that we're really concerned about is the intersection at Emerald Woods and Dingledine. The traffic now, it gets backed up down at Dingledine and Old Highway 94. But other than that, the other issue is that the sight line coming up Emerald Woods is where the other entrance is going to be from there. Is a really bad intersection. Sightline is really bad. The fear is that they're already having issues at that intersection, and the sightline's really bad. We live one street over from that, or one house over from that. So we can kind of see a little bit, but our neighbor right next door to us has to go right out there, and there's really no sightline coming down the street going towards Old Highway 94 right now. So the sightline's really bad as it is. And even last time, when the Rawls family talked about the property, they said that, their mother had been afraid of that intersection because people had actually driven up into her yard before. And also that she was afraid to get her mail, and we feel the same way, being on that street. In fact, we had to put a mailbox that you can get the mail from the other side, because we've actually had a few mailboxes hit also, and our curb totally destroyed, even though we just had concrete, because people come around the corner not watching what they're doing and they hit. So those are a couple of the things with that intersection. And then we wanted to request due to that traffic study be done, because we're concerned about the safety of that area as it is. And the Stafford, the Stonecroft people that live, okay,
That's our time.
sorry about that.
It's okay.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for coming. Just so we can be clear about that issue, we doing a final vote on that one tonight? No, this is
No,
our
this is
first
introduction.
introduction, right? Getting confused, just sat down, right? So we won't vote on that for 2 weeks.
Okay.
I know they vote on it at Planning and Zoning when they present it, but we'll hear it tonight, we'll vote on it in 2 weeks, just so you know.
Thank you.
All right, back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Drew Weber.
Speaking of this topic,
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. My name is Drew Weber with Hamilton Weber, and I'm here on behalf of Rouse Homes for this proposal. This is 1101 Dingledine Road. That's the property outline that you see in front of you, the Leffler Farm tract. The proposal is to rezone that property from currently R1B to a split of R3B and R1E. So then you can see what's proposed after that rezoning are 119 homes. So you've heard a lot of people talk about the R3B and is there going to be multifamily? There's not going to be multifamily properties on this parcel or in this subdivision. That's why we submitted a preliminary plat in conjunction with the rezoning request, was to provide assurances that these would be single-family homes. So then there's a question of, well, why the R3B zoning? Well, part of the reason is for consistency with the area. So if you look to the north, there are attached villas. That's R3B. That's allowed in R3B. If you look to the northeast and the northwest of the property, there's single-family home subdivisions, about 8 to 10,000 square foot lots. Those are also R3B. And so the top third of this site, top quarter, I guess, about 12 out of 40 acres, will be R3B. And then the bottom portion will be R1E, like the properties to the east, south, and west. So what you see in this area is a transition from R3B to R1E, and that's in fact what we propose on this property, as a transition from R3B to R1E. There's going to be no lots less than 7,000 square feet. The 7,000 to 9,000 square foot lots will be in the north, close to those smaller lot subdivisions. The 8,000 to 11,000 foot lots are going to be in the south, closer to subdivisions that have 8,000 to 11,000 square foot lots. These are going to be the first new homes in this area for 15 years. They'll be nice homes. I know, and again, I just want to reiterate, there's no multifamily proposed. I know that's a concern. People see the R3B on the notice that they get. There's no multifamily proposed. This is consistent with the single-family R3B to the north of the property, and then again, R1E to the bottom. We also brought the engineer with us. If there's any questions during the first reading, we're more than happy to answer any questions. We think this will be a good subdivision for the area, and we're just excited to do it and ask that at your next meeting that you approve this subdivision. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Brad Timmy.
Good evening. I'm Brad Timmy. I'm the Director of Engineering for the City of St. Charles. I'm here to speak on behalf of Bill number 4914, the River Point Development Agreement. A couple, at the last meeting, I heard some of the discussion that was involved, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have on the project technically. I also want to implore the council that the development is part of the Envision 2030 plan that the county has adopted. That plan encouraged the creation of mixed-use development campuses. It encouraged the development specifically at Arena Parkway in St. Charles, and to promote construction and creation of additional pad-ready development sites for Class A offices. That's exactly the goal that we're doing on River Point. It also promoted redevelopment sites along I-70. The project itself will establish a grid pattern of roadway similar to what we have in the downtown area, which will extend the Lombard Street and reconstruct Old South River Road. And none of the streets that will be built with the road board funds will be private streets. They will all be owned and maintained by the city. The 34 acres of the development site is significant in the city's boundaries. It's a quarter of our riverfront. It's important to developing tourism in our town, and we look for your support. Thank you.
Next speaker.
Richard Orr.
Good evening. My name is Richard Orr. I'm a resident of unincorporated St. Charles County, and I am here on my own behalf as a citizen of St. Charles County, and also as a representative for the Conservation Federation of Missouri, which is the largest and oldest conservation organization in the state. And CFM has concerns about the River Point project. I'm here to talk about 4914. The project has certainly gotten less environmentally destructive as it's advanced, but it's still a concern the way it affects the natural urban oasis, which is Bangor Island, which is very popular for recreation and for enjoyment of its natural features and to have as a natural wetland. This project will impact at least 15 acres of the wetland, destroy old-growth forests, increase flooding. It will damage the Katy Trail experience greatly. The project will affect 120 acres all total behind a 1-mile-long, 20-foot flood wall in a forested wetlands along Bangor Slough. This would completely remove the island's west buffer and severely degrade the slough's ecosystem. It would also increase the height of floods owing to this pinch point in the Missouri River and saddle taxpayers with the cost of recoveries. Now that the development has no water features that require it to be next to the river, therefore it should be moved back away from the river and out of the floodplain. So CFM and myself would ask you to vote no on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Klinghammer.
Former Councilman Mike Klinghammer. Welcome back. I hope you don't have any flashbacks coming back in the chamber.
No, I appreciate that, and council members, thanks for the opportunity to address you tonight. I'm going to do my very best to keep it to 3 minutes or less. Those of you that know me know that that will be an all-time first. However, I will comply with the rules, of course. First, my focus is from an economic development standpoint. I am the Economic Development Director for the City of St. Charles. I just want to give you a brief outline of the economic impact of the project. First off, it's going to attract a lot of new jobs to the county. We project that there'll be over 4,000 total jobs from all three phases of River Point. There'll be 1,200 permanent jobs from the portion that the county road board application will directly impact. That being phase 1 and 3. There'll be 1,500 temporary construction jobs, $57 million of new wages in the county from the permanent jobs. This area represents 1/4 of the city's prime riverfront frontage. This project is going to be really the first time that St. Charles embraces its riverfront. We've, as a city, have kind of ignored the river, and we're recognizing that it is a true opportunity for the city of St. Charles. This part represents 34 acres of prime real estate that can be redeveloped, 1.5 million square feet of development. It will attract somewhere in the neighborhood of $242 million of new development, $105 million of construction wages. The impact to the city and to the county on our tax base is absolutely critical. As you guys well know, the sales tax is what generates funds for the general fund. The City of St. Charles is in exactly the same position. We're trying to build our sales tax revenue, and this is a tremendous opportunity to do that. The county share of the sales tax will generate approximately $1.2 million of new tax revenues a year coming into the county. The property tax revenues will be $154,000 for road and bridge. The County Developmental Disability Board will get another $110,000. County Dispatch, $34,000. That totals out at about $300,000 of annual property tax increases. When you take these into account, the $7 million will be repaid to the county in 5 years. That's a tremendous return on investment. When we're looking at this, it is something new and different coming into the city. All right, thank you, appreciate it. I told you I couldn't do 3 minutes.
Hey, that was good, though. You filled it
Thank
all.
you.
Next speaker?
Robert Grivey.
Hello, Robert Grieve, St. Charles County citizen. In some form of another, I've been opposing this project, River Point, for over 2 years. I checked my email history on that. From trying to work with the city by proposing alternatives, and from having to resort to protests, petitions, which we've submitted. I would love to give you a complete history, but 3 minutes go quick. So there's really 3 overarching points I'd like to make. One, the city of St. Charles, in my opinion, has not collaborated with its citizens in any meaningful way to date on this project. They say it's been in the works for 10 plus years, but I believe that to be disingenuous because whack-a-mole with rejected variations of this concept over a decade is not a contiguous project. We thought this was gone, and it kind of came back 2 years to many people's surprise. My point here is that the city needs to go back to the drawing board and really start with community workshops, conceptualize this from the beginning with input from its citizens to determine what is the highest and best use for this area. Because a lot of us think it's not commercial development. They just keep iterating internally and bringing out a new proposal and waiting for less opposition, which if we would really just work together, I think we could come up with something just much greater for the entire county and the region. We need to start over with sustainability at the heart of this project. 2, so what is at the heart of this project? Well, you just heard it, quote, 4,000 jobs, $1.5 billion in economic impact, which that has been touted for over 2 years since the build grant application for this. And I know since that time, They've had an economic impact study, and those numbers haven't changed, so I'm not sure what's up with that. So this is being done for economic growth. Great. So how much economic growth do we need? The economists of the last 150 years say all economic growth can be infinite and fantastic, and that's great, right? I mean, that's the Kool-Aid we've all been drinking, and I want to briefly try to illustrate that that's some pretty stiff Kool-Aid. With an economic chart, which I'll do with my hands here, that you won't find in the economic textbooks. It's just, a modest national growth of 2% GDP, right? Let's go 2%, maybe 5% GDP if we're Kennedy. Well, it's percentage, so it's exponential until it goes vertical, like a rocket ship taking off, right? It's not just impossible, it's detrimental. We live on a planet with limited resources and one that can only take so much environmental destruction and absorb so much pollution. So I think most of us are awake to this fact now, but what are we doing about it? How is that matriculating into policy? So the point here is that we must carefully choose where and when we decide to have economic growth.
Thank you, Robert.
Thanks. And I would refer you to resolution by this county, Council 1601, that the council opposes flood-prone
Thank you.
areas. Thank you.
Next speaker?
Joe Brazel. This is like the Wizard of Oz coming out from behind the curtain.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Sorry, guys. Okay. I'm Joe Brazel, 601 Stone Ridge, Augusta, Missouri, 63332. I'm here in regard to Beyond the Trail Campground. I'm requesting an application for 2.8 acres for Phase 2 on my campground. We built it last year, and I have a video I want to show you which pretty much explains it all. If you can start this video, we did this is kind of a commercial on our website. It kind of shows shows you where it is. Do I have to do anything, or can you guys get us? Yeah.
Oh, you have music and everything.
Yeah, so it's right there. This is kind of when we were just finishing it, so there's no green, but now there's green grass and everything. It's that piece right on the other side. It doesn't have corn on it. I purchased that from the Howe family, and the Howe family has all the ground behind it and to the east of it, and so this is going to be a cumulative of about 8 acres. We opened it August 15th, and we were 100% booked until November on the weekends, and so it's really good for the community because it brings a lot of people down to the wineries and to the different businesses down there and to the parks, and so it's been really prosperous for them. It's right on the Katy Trail. It's at back. We have the Missouri River there, so we still do the Missouri River excursion business with it, and so we're asking for Phase 2 to complete, but to put 20 more sites on. And also with this development, with this addition, there will be a lane going out. I also purchased 1,600 feet all the way straight out to Darce Bottom Road, which is a county road, so then the traffic doesn't have to enter or exit at the brewery now. Someone purchased a brewery from our family. Me and my wife used to own that, and we purchased that. So you go across the bridge, and that lane going straight out now will be another exit point. So that'll be good for traffic going through the easement we have there in the parking lot. And so that's basically kind of what we're doing.
Sounds good.
Did you spend $3.8 million on it? We don't want to go into that one. Do I go up there now?
You can, when the bill's introduced, then you can read your statement.
So that's bill number 4919.
Yes.
Next speaker.
Dan Tripp.
Hello, good evening. My name is Dan Tripp. I am a resident of Defiance, Missouri. I own Good News Brewing Company in Defiance, Missouri, and we are hopefully purchasing the Augusta Brew House next week and opening that in Augusta. I was recently appointed to the board of the St. Charles Convention and Visitors Commission, and I'm a board member of the Defiance Merchants Association, and I want to share my support for Phase 2 of the RV park. I have seen firsthand how the economic development of this project has increased our revenues and revenues for other wineries and small businesses out there. I frequently go out there and I talk to the guests who are staying at the park, and they'll tell me all the places they've gone. They visit the parks. They spend a lot of times on the trails. Just overall, that the Defiance Merchants Association just really believes that we need more lodging out in wine country. We have a lot of great restaurants and breweries and wineries, but we need more places for people to stay. We believe that the increase of tourism will, again, help the small businesses and grow St. Charles County to be just a wonderful place for people to visit. So I support this. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Final speaker is Arnie Dienhoff.
Welcome back, Mr. Dienhoff. We missed you at our last meeting.
It was my birthday.
Happy birthday, belated.
Thank you. Just give me one moment here.
Yes, sir.
I'm ready.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dienhoff, County Public Advocate and resident. What I want to talk about is, number one, when speakers come up, it'd be nice if the county invested a few dollars in a clock. It could be bought, for relatively cheap, but a clock that, has a countdown of the time allowed to speakers. The next thing is, I visited with the Director of Administration, and I'm kind of frustrated. It's been 2 months already, and I want to make it a matter of the public record of the County Council. What does it take to get an ADA operable door to these council chambers, to the building of the executive office building in the rear repaired? The second thing is, what does it take to get a light bulb fixed out in our parking lot to make sure public safety is adhered to? So I just want to make that a matter of public record. Two things that I really feel passionate about. Bill number 4914, I'm opposed to. It's giving $7 million of our county road board sales tax, which the county board never approved, or the county road board never approved, for a private project, making profit for stockholders and company officers. This does not make any sense for all of us St. Charles County residents, and it's another shove it down your throat legislation for country club folks. This is corporate welfare to its finest. The other thing is, we have $1 million of police vehicles that we're giving to St. Louis County. I don't understand why we're buying vehicles from another county. It's so sad that we're feeding their economy with buying 30 vehicles from another county. On your consent agenda, why is Attorney Paul Roger Ellis being appointed to the County Planning and Zoning Commission when just 2 months ago, Steve Ellman appointed him with your concurrence to the County Port Commission? Isn't this a clear conflict of interest? As a former Assistant Director of Administration, Mr. Belmer, also a former trustee of the Duckett Creek Sanitary District and current chairman of the County Board of Equalization, was appointed by this council to be chairman of the County Port Authority. That brings many conflicts of interest up. We have some real and true problems of conflict of interest, transparency, and fairness within our county government. The next thing is why would you expend $165,000 in bill number 4909 of our taxpayer dollars for hired guns in our state capitol building? This is a job that the $150,000 salary county executive should do, the $200,000 director of administration to my right should do, the $80,000 chief of staff registered lobbyist with the Missouri Ethics Commission to Steve Ellman should do, the 2 assistant directors that are now making $137,000 times 2. Jennifer George spends full time watching legislation January 15th through May 15th. What about our 12 state representatives for St. Charles County and our 2 state senators?
Thank you, Mr. Dienhoff. Your time has expired. We appreciate you coming to join us, and happy belated birthday to you.
Thank you. I'll be back
There
to
you
finish
go.
my speech in the next meeting.
We'll
Thank you.
see you in a couple weeks. Any other speakers?
There are no other speakers.
Seeing with that, we'll move on to oral report from the county executive.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to yield my time to Joanne Lycum, who's going to give you an update on vaccination.
So the county executive asked me to kind of let you know where vaccine issues are right now for COVID-19. As you all have probably heard of the federal program, Operation Warp Speed. Operation Warp Speed at the federal level not only worked with the pharmaceutical companies about developing vaccines, they also ran a planning process through the states. And the federal plan is based upon giving each state governor the ability to develop a plan within its state for its priorities. And Missouri did that this summer. They involved several organizations and people throughout the state, and they came up with a plan that they adopted in November of 2020 and published, and it's on their website, covidvaccine.mo.gov. And it lays out not only the processes, but who's in what group for prioritization of vaccine. It also lays out, obviously, in order to get people vaccinated in those categories, they need vaccinators. And coming up with enough nursing staff to vaccinate potentially 3 million Missourians is no small deal. And so the governor has been extensively requesting over the last month or two that organizations that are prepared to be vaccinators sign up and apply to be that. Our Department of Public Health did that, and they were approved in the first round of 60 vaccinators that the state had. So most of the early vaccine, as you probably know from the news, went to the hospital systems. And that was because in Missouri, the 1A category is patient-facing healthcare providers in hospitals and staff and residents of long-term care facilities. We applied to be a vaccinator because we recognize that not all patient-facing medical staff actually works inside of a hospital. You have your community physicians, dentists, doctors, nurses, chiropractors, et cetera, who are in the community. And so we were approved to begin with that group. The state first offered us Moderna, which we ordered 1,000 as our first request of Moderna. They granted 400 of those and said that they hope to fulfill the remainder the next week. However, the next week, they did turn the entire state Moderna allocation to trying to get the nursing homes done. So we were told to hold back, and we'd be notified of when we might be able to order Pfizer. Recently, and by the way, we have delivered all 400 of those Moderna shots. We prioritize first the nursing staff who's actually giving shots so that they are not exposed. And then we handled staff who were actually doing testing, who are in regular contact with many people who are presumed to be positive. We then turned to community health providers, and we did a number of doctors and nurses who are volunteers in our community for low-income people, and then some general contractors, general medical providers. But we have given all 400 shots. And the state notified us last week that we could place a Pfizer order, and we were notified today that they have approved us to get 2 trays. There's 975 shots to a tray. We've been approved to get 2 trays. We don't know whether we'll get those by the end of this week or into next week, but we have been notified of that. We also got notice just at 5 o'clock today that the second shots, which is also a big piece of it, of 400 Moderna is en route to us so that we can begin the second vaccination on the 28th day of the people who got the first shot. And of some note, we have had no vaccine reactions to the 400 Moderna shots we gave other than some sore arms. We have had some reports of some sore arms. And I do have to give kudos here to a corporate citizen who's been very helpful to us. When we realized that we were probably going to end up with Pfizer, we ordered a ultra-low freezer. Pfizer's vaccine actually comes in a self-contained monitored system that allows you to keep the vaccine in it for up to 30 days, so long as you can acquire the dry ice you need every 5 days or so to replenish that. But Dimitri was very concerned that we could assure the safety of that. So we ordered an ultra-low freezer. By the way, ultra-low freezers are like one of the hottest things in the market right now because of vaccine. So we were notified that our freezer might come to us anywhere between the third week of February and the middle of March. So we reached out through one of Mr. Ellman's contacts to the Bayer Corporation, who could not have moved faster or been more helpful, and they delivered the freezer today. Wow. So, and it is a brand-new freezer they're loaning us until ours arrives. It's like the most exciting thing we've had in a long time, so anyway. So we have the ultra-low freezer in place. And there is a possibility that just about the time that it's completely monitored and ready to go, that we'll be putting vaccine in it. So it's an important step. The other thing we wanted to let you know is I texted you last week, the county has established a way for county residents to sign up for vaccine. We received a large number of contacts from the residents in this county saying, how do you know I'm out here if I want vaccine? How do I sign up? People were very scared about that, whether they were in 1A, 1B, 1C, or Phase 2 or Phase 3. They were very worried about that. So our folks worked together, and for about a week now, we have had the ability to sign up to be in the list. You're asked some questions. It tells us where you fall in the relative prioritization. In 10 days, 14,000 people in this county have signed up. So that's been very good. And once we have vaccine for those groups, we'll be able to contact those folks and establish them to come in for an appointment.
Real quickly, can you just reiterate how people sign up for that?
Yes, if they go to or Google our county vaccine website, they will see that under vaccines, there is a button where they can go to what they call a Survey Monkey that asks you some questions about where you live, are you retired or are you employed, a little bit about where you believe, the chart about prioritization is there, and they ask you where you believe you fall within that chart. And from that, as we approach those groups, you will get contact about getting an appointment and how you're in that group.
Thank you.
So hopefully that's helpful. I also noticed that Channel 4 ran a story today. St. Louis County put their own virtual queue up today as well, and they have a link to both ours and St. Louis County's in their story.
Nice.
So I just want to emphasize, because I know you all will get questions, the state decides who gets vaccinated. It is not up to us to decide the priorities. The state requires us to adhere to their vaccination priorities. And they will call on us when 1A is done. They will say it's time for you to start transition to 1B, and we will begin moving on 1B. We do expect that in the near future, the state is going to speak to the 1B sub-prioritization, because that's a very big group. It's people 65 and over, it's people 75 and over, it's people with comorbidities, it's first responders. There's a lot of people they have put in category 1B. So apparently they're going to speak, we believe this week, but sometime very soon, to what the sub-priorities are there. And the other thing I would tell you is that Dimitri's been working both with the healthcare systems in the region and with the other public health departments, that as vaccine really does start to flow, that we're able to do large-scale vaccination events.
Okay. Did you want to add anything?
No, sir.
Okay. Any questions? Yes, Dave.
I'm just kind of disappointed that's all the vaccines that we're getting. I thought they were going to be rolling out hundreds of thousands of vaccines soon, and Are they going somewhere else? Or how is the federal government dispersing it among the states? Do we have any idea?
The federal government does have a site where they allow as I understand it, the governors to know who got what. All we understand is that so far they've released half of what they have in stock. There is vaccine starting to move now that the supply chains have really been established, and there's vaccine abilities. You know, you got to have a lot of staff to end up vaccinating all these people who want vaccines. So there's organizations that now are fully prepared to do that. Our public health department has laid out a fairly graphic plan for how they will engage in a large-scale vaccination in any category they're assigned to as soon as vaccine is available to us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda. Is there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Move to accept.
Motion made by Mr. White, accepted by Mr. Hollander. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. We do have one item remaining that was removed from the consent agenda before. Is there any action to be taken on the Parks and Recreation? Seeing none, I guess we'll leave that on that item. We'll move on to bills for final passage. Bill number 4913.
Bill number 4913, an ordinance setting final special assessments on properties within the Saratoga Heights Sanitary Sewer Neighborhood Improvement District, finding that the Saratoga Heights Sanitary Sewer Neighborhood Improvement District project is completed and assessing the costs of such project against the properties liable therefor, and providing for the collection of such final special assessments.
Any questions or comments about this bill? Seeing none?
An ordinance setting final special assessments on properties within the Saratoga Heights Sanitary Sewer Neighborhood Improvement District, finding that the Saratoga Heights Sanitary Sewer Neighborhood Improvement District project is completed and assessing the costs of such project against the properties liable therefor, and providing for the collection of such final special assessments. Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Bill number 4913 passes. Move on to bill number 4914.
Bill number 4914, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the City of St. Charles for use of St. Charles County Transportation Sales Tax funds for road improvements needed to support the River Point Development Project.
Any questions or comments about this bill? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. This is in my district, and I do have a lot of sympathy for those of you here tonight and those of you who have contacted me, and I'm sure other members of the council over the last days and weeks. I think we need to make people understand that our vote on this is not going to end this project. Even if we all voted no, the project has been planned for a long period of time. It has a lot of approval from it, a lot of support. I believe it's supported by the state legislature and by the governor. I believe that money has been appropriated from the state legislature and a $5 million governor's cost share. This project is consistent with the county's master plan for 2030. And I believe that the development was approved by the county road board. Is that what it is, the roads board?
Correct.
Thank you. And with the same kinds of procedures and features that were in the Caledonia plan, which is in the city of O'Fallon. The issue here is whether or not we're going to pay some money for some of the roads in that project, and this is consistent again with what the county voted to do with the Caledonia project. So while I wish we could start all over again and try to make this more palatable to some people, I believe now is the time that we have to vote on it, and so I'm prepared to do that.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Cronin?
I oppose this for a lot of reasons, and primary reason is I think it's a bad deal for the taxpayers, and secondly, it's floodplain development, plain and simple. Taxpayers on the county transportation sales taxes were pretty clear when they voted to approve that year after year. It's for the purpose of traffic relief, construction, reconstruction, repair roads. It didn't say anything about filling in floodplains and making developments for an amusement park and some other pie-in-the-sky stuff that may or may not happen. If you go to the vision statement of the county roads and traffic, it says the mission of the county roads and traffic is effectively utilize the transportation sales tax to improve and enhance the transportation system throughout the county. Some of the transportation roads that are immediately adjacent to the parkway and by the streets of St. Charles, yes, those are part of the transportation grid. But a good part of this money, according to all the documents that have been submitted, are not for that. They're for filling the floodplain. And I want to remind the council, back in 2016, we passed a resolution that clearly states that St. Charles County opposes any proposal to develop floodplain land. So it looks pretty hypocritical for us to say, oh, this one's okay to fill floodplain on this side of the river. Maryland Heights, don't you all do that, okay? I'm also concerned about pinching the river at that point and what it's going to do to flooding at the family arena or all those farmers and the campgrounds that Mr. Brazel's got. So it's going to push water back upstream from those areas. When you hear them talk about jobs and jobs and jobs, in the county road board application, okay, it has the dollar figures for it. 50% of the jobs are going to be under $15 an hour in hotel and restaurant. 85% will be $20 and under in retail and entertainment. Now, these are just proposals if they get their way on this, okay? We're paying $50,000 a job for those kind of jobs. In reality, those kind of jobs already exist in this county. I just see many, many issues with this. I've asked what the negative impact would be to Bangor Island Park, never got an answer. I hiked Bangor Island Park, and I can tell you it's going to mess it up, as evidenced by the Missouri Conservation folks that were here earlier, the Audubon Society, the Missouri Parks Association, numerous environmental organizations that I would call mainstream environmental organizations that care about our parks and our local wildlife and fauna are opposed to this. St. Charles hasn't made a significant effort to any mitigation. They could do something more with the Bangor Island tract to preserve that in perpetuity for parks and wildlife refuge. That's not happened. That should have been part of this. For $7 million, that ground, rest of that ground ought to be protected. It's not being protected. For those that say, oh, this county council doesn't, we really can't do anything about it, that's hogwash, because half the money for this infrastructure is coming from y'all's tax money, and that's wrong. Additional to that, there's other things. This is not a done deal. The Corps engineers were getting so many permits, or so many comments back, they extended the public comment period to January 19th. There's a lot of opposition to this. My fear also is that if we start spending the money to develop the roads on this side and that Corps permit don't go through, we just created a road to nowhere. I'm fine with some of this, but some of this stuff just, it's half-baked. It hasn't been thought through. They're using money to create an advanced manufacturing zone. In reality, there's no advanced manufacturing in this job, in this thing. I just like to quote Senator Koenig, who's a senator who's got issues with using taxpayers for floodplain development. I'll wind it up with that. Senator Koenig said, if you want to build in a risky area, you should risk your own money and not ask taxpayers to risk theirs. That's precisely what Councilman Brazel does with his floodplain development. That's not what the city of St. Charles is doing. They've taken advantages of us before. We gave them land that was county land for the purpose of a park. Boeing said they needed to expand their manufacturing capability. We relinquished our title of that. They sold it for $3 million. They've taken advantage of us before. I think they're taking advantage of the taxpayers again, and I think they need to come up with some serious environmental mitigation for this program, this project to move forward. And that's all.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, call the roll.
Bill number 4914, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the city of St. Charles for use of St. Charles County Transportation Sales Tax Funds for road improvements needed to support the River Point Development Project. Councilmember Brazel? Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander? Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
Councilmember White? Councilmember Cronin?
No.
Bill number 4914 passes. Move on to bill number 4915.
Bill number 4915, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute an agreement with the city of Weldon Spring for certain law enforcement services, including patrol services and enforcement of certain municipal ordinances related to police services.
Any questions or comments about this bill? Seeing none, call the roll.
An ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute an agreement with the city of Weldon Spring for certain law enforcement services, including patrol services and enforcement of certain municipal ordinances related to police services. Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander? Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
Councilmember White? Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Bill number 4915 passes. Move on to bill number 4916.
Bill number 4916, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute intergovernmental agreements with the Federal Bureau of Investigation to provide for the renovation, construction, and joint use services of the existing St. Charles County Police Training Facility.
Any questions or comments about this bill? Seeing none, call the roll.
I just want to mention that the Exhibits A and B were not with the bill at introduction, and they have been timely received and posted.
Excellent, thank you.
An ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute intergovernmental agreements with the Federal Bureau of Investigation to provide for the renovation, construction, and joint use services of the existing St. Charles County Police Training Facility. Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander? Yes. Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes. Bill number 4916 passes. Congratulations, Chief. I look forward to that one. That'll be good. Bill number 4917.
Bill number 4917, an ordinance rescinding ordinance 19-077 and requiring the fingerprinting of licensees in concealed carry security officer, watchman, applicant for a tow truck business license, and applicant for a tow truck operator license for criminal history record information from the Missouri State Highway Patrol and Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Any questions or comments on this bill?
I got a question on it.
Yes, sir.
Why we're rescinding this ordinance?
Yes, sir.
Can someone tell me why? Chief or someone?
We'll go
I
with
can answer
Rory
that.
for that one.
He's trying to turn it on, sorry.
Hello? All
There
right.
you go.
Yeah.
So this ordinance is replacing ordinance 19077, and this is following communications with CGIS. So that's the state entity that handles the background checks. Our ordinance was, in their view, deficient when it was first passed, and so this second go at things is supposed to satisfy CGIS and the FBI and their stringent requirements to be able to access those background checks.
But where is that? Where is that? Did we already pass that somewhere else?
We've passed 19077, that happened back in 2019.
Oh, so it's a duplicate, so to speak?
And so
of it?
this ordinance that you would pass tonight is one that is replacing that previously passed ordinance 19077.
Okay.
We all clear?
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
An ordinance rescinding ordinance 19-077 and requiring the fingerprinting of licensees in concealed carry security officer, watchman, applicant for a tow truck business license, and applicant for a tow truck operator license for criminal history record information from the Missouri State Highway Patrol and Federal Bureau of Investigation. Councilmember Hollander? Yes. Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Bill number 4917 passes. That concludes our bills for final passage, and we move on to bills for introduction.
Bill number 4918, requested by Mike Hurlbert, sponsored by John White, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from R1B, Single-Family Residential District, to R3B, Multifamily Residential District, 12.2 acres, and R1E, Single-Family Residential District, 28.6 acres, as per application RZ 20-13.
Are there any questions or comments about this bill? Just a reminder that we will be voting on this in 2 weeks when we come back. Move on to Bill number 4919.
Bill number 4919, requested by Mike Hurlbert, sponsored by Terry Hollander, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from A Agricultural District with floodway and floodway fringe overlay districts to PR Park Recreational District with floodway and floodway fringe overlay districts as per application RZ 20-14.
Mr. Brazel.
Pursuant to Section 110.020, Conflict of Interest of the Ordinance of St. Charles County, Missouri, I am hereby disclosing on the record of St. Charles County Council that I have personal interest as the applicant and property owner in the matter of Bill number 4919, and that I shall disqualify myself from voting on any matters relating to this interest. And I'll be down there if anyone has any questions.
Does anyone have any questions about this bill? Mr. Cronin, here's your opportunity to really rake him over the coals. All right.
I'm glad you're using your money for this, Joe. You're doing it for a hell of a lot less than $3.8 million, too, I'm sure.
Well, seeing none with that, Mr. Brazel, I think you're welcome to return.
Okay, thank you.
We'll move on to Bill number 4920.
Bill number 4920, requested by Mike Hurlbert, sponsored by council as a whole, an ordinance amending sections 405.260, 405.270, and 405.275 ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, to adopt the Federal Emergency Management Agency's FEMA flood insurance study and flood insurance rate maps.
Any questions or comments about this bill?
I have some questions.
Yes, sir.
On this, let's see, where are we here?
4920.
Are this particular
Councilman,
ordinance,
do you
is
want-
this on?
Mr. Meyer to come forward, or?
Yeah, I was just, are there actual property locations that we're changing on the maps?
Yes. The properties that are changing include 2 FEMA flood maps, but the only properties in the unincorporated county, there's only 4. Of those 4 properties in the unincorporated county that would change, 3 of them are vacant owned by MoDOT, and 1 property is National Cart, and they would be impacted positively. So they would actually improve their floodplain situation in terms of the FEMA flood map.
Really?
Right, yes.
Wow.
And the other properties are located in the city of St. Charles. The 2 FEMA flood maps that are being updated, those were held back from the much larger update a few years ago for further study. And so that process has finally been completed. There's public open houses where property owners were given a chance to review what was being proposed specifically, with notice going to all the property owners. And that's taken place. So this is capping off kind of a long process to update the 2 FEMA flood maps.
Okay, that's fine, Robert. I was just curious. I want to make sure they were notified and talked. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, good. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments about this? Very well. We'll move on to Bill number 4921. Thank you, Robert.
Bill number 4921, requested by Jeff Smith, sponsored by Terry Hollander, an ordinance authorizing the county executive or his designee to execute form intergovernmental agreements for governmental entities to use the St. Charles County Backup Dispatch Center at 1605 Wentzville Parkway, Wentzville.
Any questions or comments about this bill? Seeing none, we'll move on to Bill number 4922.
Bill number 4922, requested by Steve Ellman, sponsored by council as a whole, an ordinance placing on the ballot of the Tuesday, April 6, 2021 general municipal election proposed amendments to Article 4 of the St. Charles County Charter, and if enacted by the voters, amending the charter by adjusting the qualifications to serve as the Director of Administration, Director of the Finance Department, Director of the Information Systems Department, and the County Councilor, such amendment of the charter to be effective upon certification of the election results.
Any questions or comments about this bill? Mr. Cronin.
The council before, but for charter amendments, there's a procedure in the charter for doing this with the Charter Amendment Commission. I object to this because like a lot of other things, we're not getting any advance notice on this. We got this Friday afternoon, and we're talking about an amendment to the county charter that we all took an oath to honor and obey, okay? Whether or not it's needed, I don't know. There's been no discussion. I get the bill on Friday afternoon, and that's it, okay? I got a feeling it's because you can't find a county councilor that wants to serve in St. Charles County, but I find that hard to believe with 400,000 residents. When the drafters of the people that drafted our charter back in the day spent a lot of time, and they put these residency requirements in there for a reason, and the county was a heck of a lot smaller then too. So I'm going to honor the framers of the charter and leave that residency restrictions. I won't support this, and I would ask, even like the stuff with River Point, we got the information on River Point 2 weeks ago. It wasn't in the presentation of the county council. The road board met in May. I watched the meeting this afternoon on it. I mean, we're not getting the information in a timely manner, and to make a decision this important with a day or two's notice, I'm not comfortable with.
Mr. President.
Mr. Chairman, from my understanding, we are not voting on this tonight. We're going to the next meeting, right?
We do not have to vote on this. We can
Okay.
wait 2 weeks and vote on it then.
And also, being new chairman, I would think that it would be a little more appropriate, and I know you didn't, I'm just saying, in the future, when you have council as a whole, I think they should be asked if they want to be, because I didn't know anything about this either. And I'm not sure, I don't think I object to it, but I don't know if they should assume that I'm in favor of it. You know, my name's on it, so, just like Mr. Cronin's, and I just think they should ask us.
For us to put our name on a bill, we haven't even had a chance to say anything to anybody on. I think, I agree with Mr. Brazel on that one.
Anything further?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's just not lose sight of the fact that this is just to put it on the ballot. The voters will have the opportunity to approve or reject this amendment. So all we're doing is authorizing this to be presented to the voters.
And that will cost $200,000 to do so, okay? To put it on the ballot, is what we've been told in past elections. That's a lot of money.
Is that correct?
Dave.
And does anybody from
Actually, I talked with Kurt Bard today. He said it would be, the way things sit right now, would be $125,000 for the county, depending upon how many municipal elections are going to be on there. So all the municipalities will be doing their local elections on that same date. So the more of them that jump in on their elections, then that will lower the cost of this for the county.
So
in terms of what it
there's
will
a
cost the
fixed
county.
price to do an election, and then it's divided up by how many issues are on the ballot?
Correct.
Okay, okay.
Yes, Mr. Hammond?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. Therefore, so this bill will be held over for 2 weeks, and we'll vote on this at our next meeting and run it through that process. Any actions to be taken on the table bill 4872? Seeing none, we open it up to announcements and miscellaneous.
I'd just make a comment. I suppose everyone heard in the news that there's a gentleman, Mr. Hoffman, who had purchased, he purchased multiple buildings, multiple wineries. He's supposedly spending $100 million in Southwest St. Charles County. So I've received a lot of phone calls, and the fact is, I was in Mexico with some of the winery owners and so forth, and finance. We didn't know anything of this. Not that we're supposed to be notified if someone's purchased property, but I mean, just to be clear, the government in St. Charles County, Mr. Ullman, the mayor in Augusta, no one called us and told us that this was going on. So I think this has some great possibilities.
Right.
And I know that people are a little anxious, but they still have to follow all the rules and ordinances and everything else like everybody else. So there's nothing to be too excited about, I don't think, but it's just a natural reaction, I think, that someone see change coming down the pipe and they get all worked up, you know.
I was curious if you knew any more details about that, because it seemed, it kind of came out of the blue, like you said.
It came out of the blue, and Steve didn't know about it either, and either did John Greifus, and it's like, wow. Dan Tripp, he didn't know about it either. None of us did.
Can't believe you can call the brewery and include that, although I'm excited that you're buying Augusta Brewery. So, not that wine's not great, wine's fantastic, but you can never have enough breweries, I'm just saying. Are there any other questions or comments or announcements? I would like to thank Mr. Hollander for doing a great job as council chair, as you've done before, so we appreciate your service. As well as pulling double duty with planning and zoning. So Good job on that one as well. So with that, I would entertain a motion to dismiss.
So moved.
Second.
We are dismissed.